In a shadowed castle, a noblewoman's desperate pact with darkness reveals a chilling obsession, eternal beauty drenched in blood. The cold wind howls through crumbling stone walls, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and burning wood, a world where shadows stretch long and secrets refuse to die. You find yourself stepping back into the late 1500s, Eastern Europe, a land trapped between fading medieval superstition and the fragile dawn of modernity. Here, power is a fragile flame flickering in the hands of those bold enough to grasp it. But beneath the glittering surface of castles and courtly intrigue lies a world riddled with fear, betrayal, and desperation. This was an age when the noble women of the aristocracy walked a precarious tightrope. Their power was immense, yet invisible, a whisper in the grand halls, a glance exchanged over heavy velvet curtains. To survive, to thrive, these women had to navigate a maze of social expectations and brutal political games, where a single misstep could mean ruin, or worse. In this world, the Countess emerges, not merely a name in dusty archives, but a living myth shaped by whispered rumours and chilling tales. She was said to wield cruelty like a weapon, her hands stained with acts so unnatural that the mere mention of her name could silence a room. But who was she really? A monster, a victim, or something in between? The Countess's story is tangled with the era's obsession, a dark fixation on youth and beauty. It was an obsession born from fear of decay, of death, of power slipping through one's fingers like sand. To maintain the illusion of eternal youth, some crossed lines that blurred the boundary between the human and the monstrous, performing rituals whispered about in the dead of night, rituals that promised life at the cost of unimaginable suffering. You may wonder, why did such cruelty go unchecked? Why did the desperate and the powerful seek forbidden secrets? Because in this era, appearances meant everything. The nobility's very identity was tied to an unyielding image of perfection, youthful, poised, untouchable. And behind this mask, a world of trauma, secrets, and sacrifice festered. Power was never free, it was bound with chains of pain and silence. The Countess's legend is not just a tale of cruelty, but a reflection of a society consumed by its own fears and desires. As you step deeper into her story, you'll begin to see how trauma and identity, power and helplessness, innocence and horror are forever intertwined. This is not a story told simply to shock or scare. It is a dark mirror held up to a time when humanity itself seemed fragile beneath layers of silk and steel, beneath whispered prayers and cruel bargains. So, prepare yourself to walk the shadowed corridors of history, where every flicker of candlelight reveals more than just stone walls. It reveals the human soul's darkest corners. And as we uncover the Countess's true nature, ask yourself, what does it mean to hold power in a world that demands both beauty and cruelty? How far would you go to preserve a fading reflection of yourself? Before we move on, if these shadows intrigue you, consider subscribing and joining this journey into forgotten, forbidden histories. Your thoughts, your questions, leave them below. They matter in piecing together the past's haunting puzzles. The story of the Countess is just beginning, but already the lines between legend and reality blur, and the weight of her world presses close. What secrets will these walls reveal, and what price was paid for the darkness behind the velvet mask? The soft rustle of silk curtains, the flicker of candlelight casting restless shadows on the cold stone walls. This was the world into which she was born. You stand at the threshold of a vast mountain swimming with Anor, its sprawling wings tangled with ivy and mystery, perched on the edge of a forest where whispers cling like mist. This is the cradle of her life, the aristocratic lineage that promised power, and an unyielding weight of expectation. Born into a family whose name commanded both respect and fear, the Countess entered the world swaddled in velvet and destined for a life measured by her beauty and influence. Her lineage traced back through generations of noble blood, each ancestor a thread woven into the tapestry of wealth and ruthless ambition that defined her house. But privilege, you quickly learn, was a gilded cage. From the earliest days, she was bound not only by silver spoons but by the unspoken rules of courtly life, a labyrinth where appearance was currency and influence was the fragile lifeblood of survival. Every smile measured, every word weighed, she was groomed to be a jewel in this ornate crown of aristocracy. Yet beneath the surface of polished grace, a turbulent world stirred. Her childhood unfolded in endless corridors and shadowed chambers, a sprawling manor that held secrets as deeply as it did dust. Here, court intrigue was as natural as the morning light, and the rustling of silks masked whispers of betrayal. She learned early that loyalty was fickle, and love, when offered, often came with sharp edges. Mortality was never far from her thoughts. In an era when death could sweep through the household like a plague, taking the young and old alike, loss was a constant shadow. She saw it firsthand, siblings snatched away by fever, servants disappearing behind locked doors, the heavy silence left in their wake. These early encounters with death carved deep hollows in her psyche, planting seeds of fear that would grow into obsession. You can almost feel the chill of those winter nights when the manor's halls grew eerily silent, broken only by the distant weeping of a mother mourning another lost child. For a young girl, these moments blurred the lines between reality and nightmare, shaping a fragile mind that clung to control in a world slipping unpredictably into darkness. Yet within this storm of loss and expectation, a spark of fascination took root. Alchemy, mysticism, and forbidden knowledge whispered in the shadows called to her like a siren's song. Secret texts hidden in dusty libraries, cryptic symbols etched on parchment, the allure of ancient rituals promising the impossible, a way to cheat death, to hold forever the fragile bloom of youth. Her curiosity was not mere childish fancy, but a desperate grasp for meaning amid chaos. She immersed herself in the arcane arts, guided by tutors whose eyes gleamed with secrets and warnings. These early explorations were the first cracks in her innocence, revealing a hunger for power that went beyond titles and lands. But with knowledge came a darker awakening. Family tragedies, some shrouded in whispered scandal, deepened her dread of decay. Tales of ancestors lost to madness, whispered curses passed down like heirlooms, and mysterious illnesses that consumed bodies and minds alike haunted her dreams. These spectres shaped her understanding of suffering as both inevitable and conquerable, if only one dared to wield the right knowledge. Her beauty, radiant and haunting, became both her shield and her burden. It opened doors but also painted a target on her back, making her vulnerable to envy and cruelty. She learned to mask pain behind a carefully crafted visage, knowing that to falter meant exposure, not just of weakness but of the terrifying secrets she sought to bury. Imagine the pressure resting on her young shoulders, the constant performance demanded by a society that valued women as ornaments and power brokers, yet never as equals. Beauty was currency, yes, but it was also a trap, binding her to expectations that left no room for fear, doubt, or failure. She became a study in contrasts, innocence entwined with a growing darkness, hope shadowed by the horror sure. He glimpsed in death and decay. Every smile held a secret, every glance a silent plea for control in a world spiraling beyond her grasp. As you picture her in those early years, walking through sun-dappled gardens, listening to the whispered prayers of servants, tracing the delicate pages of forbidden tomes, you begin to understand how trauma and ambition fused in her soul, how a child born into privilege could grow into a figure both tragic and terrifying. Her story is a reminder that behind every legend lies a human being shaped by loss and longing, by fear, and the desperate hope for power over an unforgiving fate. If the shadows of her early life stir your curiosity, don't forget to subscribe and join this journey into the hidden corners of history. Share your thoughts below. What do you think shaped her most? The weight of her family's legacy, or the haunting losses of her youth? As we leave the manor's echoing halls and step closer to the secrets she would one day unleash, ask yourself, what price would you pay to escape the relentless march of time, to hold on to beauty, youth, and power when everything else fades? The next chapter will reveal how these early fears and desires twisted into something far darker, an obsession that would change her fate and the lives around her forever. The heavy scent of damp earth and wilted roses lingers in the cold air, a silence so thick it presses against your chest like a stone. You find yourself standing at the edge of a graveyard cloaked in twilight, where the ground is soft and broken beneath the weight of loss. This is where her world first shattered, the moment when innocence was ripped away and the brutal truth of mortality slammed into her like a violent storm. The Countess's life was forever altered by the death of someone she loved deeply, a sibling whose laughter once filled the manor's halls but now echoes only in memory. You can almost hear the whispered farewells carried away by a cruel wind, the quiet sobs muffled behind closed doors. This was no distant tragedy. It was a raw wound opening wide, exposing the fragility of flesh and the unbearable reality of loss. The illness struck swiftly, a fever that consumed with merciless speed, a common horror of the time, but devastating in its personal devastation. As you picture her, young and fragile, confronting the empty silence where her beloved once stood, the horror settles in, her world fractured, revealing a void where warmth had been. It was here, at this dark crossroads, that the seed of obsession took root, a desperate desire to grasp what death had cruelly stolen. This loss became the catalyst, the moment her fear of time's relentless decay turned into something darker. You can feel the cold grip of desperation tightening around her heart, twisting hope into something unrecognizable. Into this void stepped a shadowy figure, a man cloaked in mystery and whispered rumors. Some called him an alchemist, others a mad doctor, or even a member of a secret society practicing forbidden arts. Whatever the truth, his arrival brought with it promises that danced on the edge of madness and salvation. He spoke of ancient knowledge, of ways to halt the ravages of time and flesh. His voice was a low, hypnotic murmur, offering rituals and elixirs that defied nature's laws. You can almost see the flicker of doubt and longing in her eyes as she listens, caught between skepticism and the overwhelming need to believe. This meeting marks a turning point. The Countess, once merely curious about alchemy and mysticism, now steps into the shadowed world of dark knowledge, not as a seeker of understanding, but as a desperate architect of defiance against death itself. She begins experimenting with blood rituals, ancient cryptic ceremonies that blend superstition, desperation, and the faint hope of control. These early acts, performed in secret chambers beneath the manor, hint at the forbidden path she would follow. Each ritual is a fragile thread pulling her further into obsession. The psychology here is stark and raw, fear twisting into fixation, survival blurring into madness. You see the thin line where a human mind faced with unbearable loss can snap and spiral into darkness. This transformation is not sudden but a slow descent, each ritual feeding a growing hunger to cheat the inevitable. Yet there is a tragic beauty in this madness. The Countess is not merely a villain, she is a woman wrestling with grief and powerlessness, using the tools she has to battle forces far beyond her control. Her actions echo a universal human fear of death, decay, and the fading of everything we hold dear. Imagine the candlelight flickering in that hidden chamber, shadows dancing on ancient stone walls as she performs her rituals, each movement heavy with hope and dread. You can almost feel the weight of her torment, the fragile balance between hope and horror. Her story here reminds us that obsession often begins with love and loss, that the drive to survive can become a cage of its own making. The rituals she embraces are both a rebellion and a surrender, a desperate attempt to hold on to the past while being consumed by it. If this descent into darkness grips you, consider subscribing to follow the full story of how desperation reshaped a noblewoman into a figure both feared and misunderstood. Share your thoughts below. What would you sacrifice to stop time's cruel march? As we prepare to step deeper into her shadowed world, ask yourself, how thin is the line between survival and madness, and at what point does the pursuit of power become a surrender to the darkness within? The next chapter will unveil the consequences of these early experiments, as the Countess's world spirals into a terrifying realm where innocence is lost forever. The flicker of countless candles casts trembling shadows on stone walls, the air thick with the coppery scent of blood and the whisper of ancient words. You step silently into a hidden chamber beneath the manor, an alcove lost to daylight and reason, where time itself seems to bend. Here, the noblewoman begins her transformation, crossing the threshold from fragile human into something far darker, something mythic. In these secret rooms, ritual is not just ceremony, it is survival. Blood is drawn, not merely as medicine, but as a sacred elixir, a vessel of life itself. The deep red stains glisten on alabaster skin, pooling slowly in cracked bowls, a vivid contrast against pale flesh. The air is dense, alive with the mingled scents of iron, melting wax, and faint traces of herbs crushed for their whispered powers. Imagine the Countess there, draped in silk but pale as death, her once radiant beauty now preserved by unnatural means. Her eyes hold a haunted gleam, a fragile glow that refuses to be extinguished. The unnatural pallor of her skin speaks of secrets kept in shadows, of life stolen and renewed by dark arts that defy nature's cruel laws. Each ritual is a step deeper into a world where the boundaries between life and death blur, where the desire to cheat mortality comes at a price few dare to pay. You can almost hear the whispered incantations, the soft prayers laced with desperation and determination. But this preservation comes at a terrible moral cost. Servants, chosen not by chance but by cruelty, are sacrificed in the dark. Their lives, fleeting and powerless, become the price for the Countess's unnerving vitality. The chilling truth is that behind her ethereal beauty lies a trail of suffering. Bodies hidden in forgotten corners, lives extinguished to feed a hunger that grows with every ritual. This descent into cruelty marks a profound transformation, not only of the body but of the soul. The woman who once was beloved and fragile now wrestles with her fading humanity, the warmth of Countess. Passion giving way to the cold allure of immortality. Inside her, a brutal battle rages between the last flickers of innocence and the seductive promise of eternal life. Each sacrifice chips away at her conscience, but the mirror reflects only the pale, unyielding face of obsession. Psychologically, this is the moment where fear transmutes into something darker, madness masked by beauty, where power demands an ever-increasing toll. The Countess becomes both prisoner and warden of her own creation, caught in a cycle where survival is bound to suffering. You might ask yourself, what drives a person to cross such lines? Is it the terror of oblivion, the desire to grasp control in a chaotic world? Or is it the deeper ache of loss so profound it warps the soul? These rituals, though steeped in superstition and desperation, also reveal a raw human truth, a desperate attempt to hold on to identity, to resist the eroding passage of time and pain. Yet the price paid is never just physical, it is the surrender of empathy, the sacrifice of innocence. Picture the candles guttering low, shadows stretching longer, the soft scrape of fingers tracing ancient symbols carved into cold stone. The Countess's reflection in a cracked mirror stares back, timeless but trapped, beautiful yet forever haunted. If you find yourself drawn to this dark dance between hope and horror, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts below. What do you believe is the true cost of power, and how far would you go to preserve yourself, even if it means becoming a monster? As we prepare to uncover the consequences of this transformation, consider this. When does the pursuit of eternal life become the death of the soul, and how do we recognize the humanity buried beneath myth? The next chapter will pull back the veil further, revealing the shadows that creep into every corner of her life, and the chilling legacy she begins to carve into history itself, the here. The scent of polished wood and fading roses hangs in the grand halls, echoes of laughter now replaced by whispered fear. You step into the gilded prison of the manor's court, where every glance carries suspicion and every smile hides a sharpened dagger. The Countess, once a vibrant symbol of aristocratic grace, now walks a lonely path carved by her own dark dependence. Her reliance on blood rituals, the very source of her unnatural vitality, casts a long shadow over her life. These secret ceremonies, meant to preserve her beauty and power, isolate her from those she once called family and court. Whispers swirl like poison in the corridors, tales of cruelty, unnatural acts, and sacrifices made in the dead of night. She becomes both revered and reviled, a paradox wrapped in silk and mystery. To some she is a living legend, a figure of fascination whose ageless beauty masks terrible secrets. To others, she is a spectre of dread, a ruler whose mercy is as cold and sharp as the dagger hidden beneath her skirts. Power dynamics within the court shift like shifting sands. The Countess wields her beauty not just as adornment but as weapon and shield. It commands attention, bends wills, and terrifies those who dare to challenge her. Yet, beneath the flawless facade, a storm brews. Cruelty becomes her currency. Paranoia claws at her mind, fueled by the constant threat of betrayal. Her enemies, real or imagined, face ruthless punishment. No one is safe from the cold precision of her retribution, and the walls of her court close in tighter with every act of vengeance. Secrecy reigns supreme. The rituals, the sacrifices, the unspoken bargains, these remain hidden behind locked doors and veiled threats. The Countess's world narrows, a cage of her own making, where trust is a luxury she cannot afford. This oppressive system exacts a brutal psychological toll, maintaining the illusion of PE. Affect composure amid growing suspicion becomes a daily battle. You can almost feel the weight of her hollow smiles, the fatigue etched into her eyes, and the flicker of despair beneath the surface. Externally she remains eternal, her youthful visage untouched by time's cruel hand, but inside decay festers, loneliness gnaws at her soul, madness whispering its seductive promises in the silence. The more she clings to power, the more she slips into isolation. You might wonder, what does it mean to be trapped in a world where beauty is both blessing and curse? How does one maintain sanity when every relationship is shadowed by fear and betrayal? Her story reveals a haunting truth, that power, when built on fear and cruelty, corrodes from within. The Countess's outward perfection is a mask hiding a fractured mind, a soul wounded by the very rituals meant to save her. If the dark allure of this story captivates you, subscribe and share your thoughts below. What would you sacrifice to hold on to power and youth? And how do you think fear shapes those who wield it? As we move forward, prepare to confront the growing consequences of her rule, the betrayals, the hauntings, and the irreversible choices that will define her legacy. The next chapter will reveal the faces of those who dared to defy her, and the shadows they left behind. The cold clang of iron gates echoes in the distance, mixing with the murmurs of the restless court, whispers thick with suspicion and dread. You find yourself walking the shadowed corridors where power and paranoia intertwine like poisonous vines. The Countess's world, once veiled in mystery and quiet reverence, now trembles under the weight of rising threats, from rival nobles hungry to unseat her, to relentless witch hunters prowling in the darkness, determined to expose her secrets. Her enemies wear many faces, some adorned with jeweled collars and silk gloves, others cloaked in the austere garb of moral crusaders. They move through the court like hunters scenting prey, their motives as complex as the web she has spun around herself. But the fight. RCS battles are not fought in grand halls or moonlit forests, they rage within her. Behind the immortal mask, the Countess wrestles with guilt, haunted by the innocent lives sacrificed to sustain her unnatural existence. Each lost soul is a weight pressing down on her conscience, a shadow that lengthens with every ritual, every drop of stolen blood. You can almost hear the silence that follows her, a heavy stillness where the ghosts of her victims seem to whisper questions only she can hear. What have you become? At what cost does survival come? Her grip on control begins to slip, fragile as the candle flames flickering in her private chambers. Paranoia gnaws at her thoughts, twisting reality into a labyrinth of doubt and fear. Is that a glance of accusation behind every smile? Does every shadow conceal a conspirator? Moments of vulnerability pierce her carefully constructed armor. In the quiet solitude of her bedchamber, she confronts herself, staring into a cracked mirror that reflects not just her pale, ageless beauty, but the fractured soul beneath. Who is she truly? The noblewoman born of privilege, or the monster forged by desperation and dark pacts? This tension between survival and monstrosity pulls her in opposite directions, each choice a step further into the abyss or a fleeting grasp at redemption. She knows that to surrender her power is to embrace death, yet to cling to it is to lose the very humanity she fights to preserve. Symbolic encounters mirror this inner turmoil. A raven perched ominously on a windowsill, its black eyes glinting like accusation. A wilting rose pressed between the pages of an ancient book, a fragile reminder of beauty doomed to fade. Each symbol is a thread unraveling the fabric of her identity, revealing the tragic cost of her pact. Psychologically, this is a descent into madness fueled by isolation and fear, but it is also a profound exploration of human frailty. The Countess's struggle reflects the universal conflict between who we are and who we fear becoming when faced with unimaginable loss. You may wonder, how does one reconcile the desire to live with the horrors committed to ensure it? Where does the line blur between victim and villain? Her story challenges us to look beyond legend, to see the raw, painful humanity beneath the myths. It forces a reflection on the consequences of choices made in desperation and the haunting echo they leave behind. If this dark journey resonates with you, please subscribe and share your thoughts below. What would you sacrifice to survive? And can redemption ever be found when one's soul is stained with blood? As we prepare to delve deeper into the unraveling of her reign, ask yourself, when the mask slips, what remains of the person beneath? And can a soul, fractured by fear and power, ever be whole again? The next chapter will reveal the ultimate confrontation, where loyalty fractures, secrets explode, and the true cost of her immortality is laid bare. The distant toll of a church bell echoes through a fog-laden night, a solemn reminder of grace and forgiveness beyond reach. You stand now at a crossroads in her shadowed journey, a fleeting glimpse of light in a world smothered by darkness. The Countess, ensnared in the grip of blood rituals and merciless power, harbors rare, fragile moments when hope flickers within her cold heart. In the midst of relentless obsession, she seeks redemption, not just from the outside world, but from herself. These glimpses come as whispers of a forgotten life, a yearning for normalcy, for forgiveness in a realm where such gifts are nearly impossible. Enter a trusted confidant, perhaps a loyal servant whose steady presence offers warmth amid the cold stone corridors, or a forbidden love, someone who sees beyond her ethereal beauty and monstrous deeds to the woman struggling beneath. This figure challenges the path she has carved, a mirror held up to her fractured soul, reflecting a possibility of salvation. Yet these moments of resistance clash violently with her addiction to the blood rituals, the very lifeblood sustaining her unnatural youth and power. The tug-of-war between craving and conscience deepens the tragedy, each fleeting attempt to break free met with the crushing weight of addiction and fear. Picture her standing alone in a moonlit garden, the scent of jasmine mingling with the iron tang of blood on her hands. Her eyes, tired yet resolute, search the shadows for a future unbound by sacrifice and cruelty. But these attempts falter. Each failure tightens the noose, driving her further into desperation and brutality. Allies become casualties, love turns to sorrow. The more she struggles, the more the darkness consumes her. This tension, the desperate hope for salvation battling the inexorable pull of darkness, builds suspense like a storm gathering on the horizon. You are left to wonder, will she finally surrender to the abyss, or can a spark of humanity ignite a path to redemption? Her story at this turning point is not just about power or superstition. It is a profound reflection on addiction, trauma, and the human desire to reclaim one's soul from the shadows. If this fragile struggle moves you, subscribe and share your thoughts below. What do you think it takes to break free from the darkest parts of ourselves? Can love or forgiveness heal even the deepest wounds? As we prepare to reveal the consequences of these pivotal moments, ask yourself, what does it mean to fight for salvation when every step forward risks complete surrender? The next chapter will expose the irrevocable choices and haunting legacies forged in the crucible of her final descent. The night air is thick with smoke and screams, a tempest of chaos tearing through the cold stone walls she once called sanctuary. You stand at the edge of a crumbling fortress, its battlements trembling under the assault of those who have uncovered the horrors lurking within. The Countess's secret, her blood rituals, her unnatural longevity, shattered before the eyes of horrified onlookers, igniting an uprising fueled by fear and vengeance. Flames lick the night sky, casting grotesque shadows over the twisted faces of the mob. Screams pierce the thick air as the veneer of nobility burns away, exposing the raw cruelty beneath. Every stone, every whispered prayer, every ritual now laid bare, stripped of its veil. In the heart of this storm the Countess stands, her figure a haunting silhouette against flickering torchlight. Pale, ethereal, yet fiercely defiant, she embodies the tragic culmination of her quest for eternal life. You can see the exhaustion etched deep into her eyes, the flicker of madness tempered by resolve. This is her final stand. Whether defiant or broken, her fate is sealed in this crucible of fire and fury. The choices she made, the sacrifices demanded by her dark path, converge here in a moment heavy with inevitability. Her death, or perhaps disappearance, is shrouded in myth. Some say she was consumed by the flames, her body reduced to ash and shadow. Others whisper she fled into the night, forever haunted, forever changed, becoming something beyond human comprehension, a legend whispered through centuries. This climax is not merely the fall of a woman, but the tragic reckoning of a soul ensnared by forbidden desires. The psychological toll of seeking eternal life at such a cost echoes through the ages, a haunting testament to the price of defying nature itself. You are left to grapple with profound questions. What becomes of those who reach too far for immortality? Can salvation be found in the ashes of destruction? Or does the pursuit of forbidden power doom the soul to endless torment? If this dark journey into the heart of legend has gripped you, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts below. How do you reconcile the desire to live forever with the human cost it demands? As the echoes of this tragic tale fade into history, remember Bear this. Some secrets are meant to remain buried, and some bargains, no matter how desperate, come with a price too high to pay. The next section will reflect on the legacy left behind, the myths born from darkness, and the chilling truths that still haunt us today. The chill of centuries clings to ancient stone walls, where shadows stretch long and stories whisper like ghosts caught between history and myth. You stand before the crumbling ruins of a once mighty castle, its empty windows like hollow eyes watching over a landscape still haunted by the legend of the Countess. Over time, fact and fiction have tangled into a dark tapestry, threads of fear, fascination and fascination woven tightly into the fabric of local folklore. Her story has become more than history. It is a living myth that continues to captivate and terrify. Tales of blood-soaked chambers and vampire brides echo in the Gothic halls of imagination, inspiring countless works of art, literature, and popular culture. The very name Countess conjures images of eternal beauty shadowed by unspeakable cruelty. Historians, armed with documents and testimonies, strive to peel back the layers of legend. They reveal glimpses of the woman beneath the myth, a complex figure shaped by trauma, desperation, and the relentless pursuit of survival. These fragments challenge us to reconsider her not merely as a monster, but as a tragic symbol of power's corrupting potential. Her legacy endures as a potent symbol where beauty, cruelty, and power intertwine, a haunting reminder of what obsession can spawn. The very fear she inspired continues to ripple across generations, a reflection on the deep wounds left by trauma and the dark paths it can forge. As you ponder this legacy, consider how stories, half-truths and shadows shape our understanding of history and humanity. What echoes of trauma do we carry forward, and how do mold the legends we tell? If this journey through darkness and myth has moved you, please subscribe and share your reflections below. How do you think the past continues to influence the present? And what lessons lie hidden beneath the stories we fear to confront? The final chapter will offer a haunting reflection on survival, identity, and the price exacted by the pursuit of forbidden power. The cold silence of an abandoned manor stretches endlessly, where dust motes drift through shafts of pale moonlight like trapped memories. You stand alone in these empty halls, where time seems to hold its breath. The story of the Countess lingers here, not just in whispered legends, but as a haunting reflection of something far more universal: humanity's relentless obsession with youth, beauty, and the desperate desire to outrun mortality. Her tale is a mirror held up to our deepest fears, the creeping decay that claims all flesh, the fading light of life no matter how fiercely we clutch at it. In her, we see not just cruelty but vulnerability, a tragic figure shaped by the very same terror that haunts us all. Imagine her ghostly silhouette drifting through these cold corridors, forever trapped between life and death, beauty and decay. The candlelight flickers and dies, the echoes of her footsteps fade into silence. She is a shadow that refuses to pass, a reminder of the cost paid for vanity and power. Psychologically, her story forces us to confront the shadows within ourselves, the secrets we bury, the obsessions we harbor, and the sacrifices we make in pursuit of an impossible dream. It is a somber meditation on resilience and ruin, on how the pursuit of forbidden knowledge can carve deep wounds in the human soul. As you reflect on this dark journey, ask yourself, how far would you go to escape the inevitability of death? What price would you pay to hold on to fleeting youth or power? And at what point is survival become a prison? If this story has moved you, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts below. Your reflections keep these stories alive, reminding us all that history is not just past, it is a mirror to our present and future fears. The legacy of the Countess is not just a tale of horror, but a cautionary echo, a haunting reminder that some shadows we carry within are impossible to escape.